Now, in life, there are many adventures. You know, my mom and dad, they had a dream just like a lot of other families. Some call them mad scientists, it's like an acronym, M.A.D, mom and dad. Like a mad scientist, parents, they're like, man, I can't believe what those people just did. Those are the caring and loving, nurturing people that I grew up to know. Now, some people don't have mom and dad, so they need ministers and preachers. Some of those ministers and preachers are like, man, they're preaching, they're teaching, and they just feel like they're not getting any reward. So it's like ministers and preachers, that's like a map. Man, how can we build a map, to save people? Well, we got to have adventures, It's like American adventures, like A.A.A. for the mind, And sometimes you're on an adventure, And some of those people, they haven't had any A.A. for the mind, And it's not their fault, Maybe they didn't get enough education, who knows, So we got to start with self-defense, Now, if you have a self-defense, you can Krav Maga. It's kickboxing, Everybody loves the kickboxing movie, There's a few of them out there. I love those guys. I first went to a martial arts competition. I hadn't had any formal training. I taught myself martial arts just because I wanted to learn self-defense because I didn't want to hurt anybody. And I didn't really like weapons and guns, so I learned martial arts. Now, let me tell you about the adventures. Well, if you want to go to an adventure, the first thing you have to do is you have to start somewhere. Now, they got Welcome Warrior Martial Arts. Now, martial arts begins with the mind. Now, if you don't have control of your mind, you don't have control of your body. So, the first thing you have to do is you have to go to a martial arts studio. Look, I got UPS delivering today, man, worldwide services. And what's he delivering? I don't know. It could be extra gear, targets, uniforms. I mean, there's a lot of people that go to this studio, I'm telling you. You're going to have to go down there to find out. Now, I want to tell you something else about martial arts. Physical fitness. Well, you got to have physical fitness. But what about the psychology? I mean, you can't just have physical fitness and no psychology. You got to have discipline of the mind. Discipline of the mind is like setting goals. A lot of people, they just exercise and they get these physical goals and, well, they don't get the psychological goal. They just get built and beefed up, and then they wonder why they got all these beefs. They're like, hey, you got beef? And it's like, well, they get all beefed up and angry because they did all the workouts, but they didn't do any of the mental functions, like psychological training. I want to tell you about the beautiful thing about Jacksonville, Sometimes you got to start somewhere. It's like, say we launch a mission, like a Mars mission, like an adventure. What are you going to do on your adventure? If you don't know anything about the wildlife or the trees, the need for grass, some people are like, man, what is the grass? And it's like, well, you got all these different languages. If you had good grass, then you wouldn't have all these different languages, And you know why? Because in some places they might be malnutrition, It's like, did they get any good grass? Or was it too hot out there and not enough food, So their language might be a little bit slurred. So he says, well, good grasses, And what is the good grasses, Well, if you got grass for the cows, then you've got milk, If you got wheat for the field, then you've got cereal, Now, I want to tell you about Jacksonville Laboratorium, He says, man, how can we go on a space mission, man, without any kind of training with martial arts? How can we go and do crop restoration, earth restoration, and sciences, you know? How can we do that? If they go on a mission trail that's like 20, 30, 40, 50 miles long, you know? If they go on those mountain hikes, where are they going to start? They're just going to run to the mountain and do a hike in the woods? Or you send them to Jacksonville Boratorium, you know? It's like, man, how am I going to start that? I says, well, you've got to have a space center, man. You know how much research they did on that space station? So before you start on your challenge, I'm telling you, you got to go get some martial arts training, and you got to learn a little bit about plants and sciences. And don't forget, if you're going out to these places that don't have grass and trees and they're doing all kind of scientific stuff to restore the planet, then you've got to have some kind of Mars mission plan, you know? It's more than Mars. It's Earth. So, how are we going to start that? Well, if you got people arguing because they don't have the family values, then how are they ever going to work together as teams? So, I propose the proposal that maybe we start with family first.